episode of Finding 44, we sat down with Michael Kaltenmark, who leads marketing and communications for the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. He's also well known for his former role, serving as the man on the other end of the leash for Butler University's live Bulldog Mascot. With a career in sports marketing spanning more than 2 decades, Michael's passion for creating memorable connections has carried him across the pinnacle of sport, from the Final Four to the Indy 500 and countless events in between. Having sat at the literal table where Project 44 was hatched, without Michael's vision and support almost 10 years ago, Project 44 would have never become what it is today. Over the years, Michael has lent his voice and his world-famous Bulldog in support of community initiatives and life-saving causes, and we're so grateful for his partnership and friendship. Listeners, champion for change, Michael Kaltenmark. Michael, I love that we're getting to have a planned, intentional conversation, because most often you and I are seeing each other in impromptu settings where we're catching each other at a game or at the track or at an event. So it's great to be able to sit down with you and be able to have this conversation, especially one that's so meaningful. And your connection to Butler University runs very deep. Can you explain all of your involvement and your roles with the university and the impact that it has been, of course, not just on your career, but on your life as well?
Sure. Yeah, it's great to see you as well, Lara and Chrissy, and to catch up in this way. It's nice to sit down formally and chat for once. So 2002 Butler graduate, which means I arrived in the fall of 1998 and didn't leave for a long time. Ended up having a 19-year professional career at Butler as well. So I graduated in 2002 with a degree in journalism and public relations, and thought I wanted to go into motorsports, and specifically motorsports PR and marketing. Had a great internship with Newman Haas Racing while I was there, and had a couple job offers my senior year, even before I graduated, and I turned them both down. Put my eggs in the higher ed basket, specifically at Butler, and hoped for something to come along, and by July it did. And as I said, I had a great run there that spanned about 2 decades, and of course wore a number of different hats, got involved in a number of different initiatives and projects, had a host of responsibilities, but probably most known for taking care of the Butler Bulldog mascots. And I had Butler Blue the second, Butler Blue the third, and went all over the country with those dogs and had a really great time, but certainly made lifelong friendships and relationships there. Butler, I mean, that's my extended family, and so it was more than just a place to get an education or a degree. It's where I really put down some deep roots and started my career, and like I said, made some really great formative relationships that stick with me to this day, and certainly are, all that was a precursor to me landing at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And so I kind of put the motorsports thing on hold, and I'm really glad I did, because my experience at Butler was truly incredible, and to the point where I thought I'd never leave. And then Doug Bulls called and gave me an offer I couldn't refuse, and found my way back into motorsports, and I'm grateful for it, because Butler really prepared me for my role here now. And so, I love Butler with a passion, still do, even though I don't work there. I still turn up quite often and still bleed Butler blue, and I'm Bulldog through and through.
Michael, I feel like you're probably a little bit humble there when you say, like, I put my eggs in the higher ed basket. If there's anything we know about you and the trajectory of your career, it's that everything that you do happens because you make it happen. And I think, the live mascot program is the perfect example of that. In fact, writers and media across the country have made an example of that. So can you tell us a little bit about, in your role, you're at Butler, you're a young professional, and you have this observation, this idea that, you know what, I think we can do it better. I think we can create more connection. I think we can get a bigger audience if we just do this. Tell us about kind of like how the live mascot program came to be, and some of those kind of key moments throughout your time there that were just like, man, this would have never happened without this program.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, I think you're probably giving me too much credit. I feel like I've had a little helping hand from above in my career. I mean, I don't think I'm Forrest Gump falling into, situations. I've certainly worked hard, but at the same time, I can look back and see that there's a higher power involved. But, the Mascot program was one that I threw myself headfirst into. I saw a huge opportunity there. And part of that was being able to come full circle. Like, I was one of the guys who wore the suit when I was an undergrad. So I was the Butler Bulldog in that sense. And then to get a live mascot and get my hands on that, I saw a full circle moment there. So that was, that sort of completed me. But then when I got my hands on the live mascot program, I mean, it was still in its infancy. Certainly we had a history of live mascots at Butler decades prior, but Kelly Walker got, the modern program that we know started in 2000. And in 2004, when she left the university, I basically put my hand up and asked if I could take it over. And they said yes. And hopefully they don't regret that, because I stopped asking after that. That was the last question I asked. The rest I just ran with. Because I had a vision for it. Part of that was because I had an itch that I needed to scratch. At that time at Butler, I was doing fundraising. And I got to tell you, I'm not passionate about asking people for money. It's a good skill to have, but I was passionate about Butler. And I saw the Mascot program as an opportunity to really get my hands on something that I could, market and, really use my abilities in public relations. And so it was a creative outlet for me. But looking strategically at it, I thought, boy, this is an immense asset for the university. This could be big. The problem is it's still small. And so I really thought about, well, what do I want this to be? What are my aspirations? And certainly UGA at Georgia was one. Handsome Dan at Yale was another. The only problem is we didn't have big time, SEC football or a tradition like the Ivy Leagues. And so I wasn't quite sure how we were going to make that happen. I thought about, one, the dog just has an awareness and exposure problem. So my wife was in grad school. I didn't have a lot to do. So I was like, I'm going to take this dog everywhere. And whether it was a bake sale or a basketball game, like, we went. And so I wanted to, increase the visibility. And then all the while I'd figure out how we could sort of, level up. And fortunately, Brad Stevens came, and he's a pretty good coach, and that helped the basketball team get better. And they went to 2 Final Fours, and the rest is history, right? But all the while, I was sort of building a foundation for the Mascot program, which again started with sort of visibility. And then I started blogging for the dog to really give the dog a digital presence. And that sort of tells you how long ago this was. And then blogging gave way to true social media, because this was around the advent of that. And I just gave the dog a voice, and one that was unique to the dog, but also resonated with sort of the university's values and messaging. So it wasn't, anything that ran against what the university was about, but also gave the university a bit more life. And it seemed to resonate with our fans and audiences all over. And before I knew it, I had sort of realized my dream of making this, this dog a household name. And boy, we've had a lot of fun with it ever since. But I have to give a lot of credit to Brad Stevens and the men who sacrificed all their time and energy to play basketball for Butler, because they're the ones that gave us a national stage and really helped us put that Mascot program on the map. The rest was all just a lot of fun and hard work and making sure that we were doing the things we needed to do so that when we hit that stardom, we could take full advantage. And so ever since then, it's allowed us to expand the program. And so again, thinking strategically about a Mascot program, I think we tend to place them over here as sort of a sideline attraction, and we saw it as a real business asset to the university. So besides athletics, what else could the dog do? And that's when we started thinking about, well, what are the sort of strategic areas of the university? And you think student recruitment, student retention, faculty and staff relations, alumni relations. And so we figured out what the dog could do in each of those areas to advance our mission. And the probably the most notable is student recruitment. And that's when Butler joined the Atlantic 10. And President Denko came to us and said, how are we going to take advantage of this from a marketing and PR perspective? And I raised my hand and said, we could take the dog on the road wherever the team goes and, across the Eastern Seaboard in these new markets. We could take the dog and play tourists, and I could put that on social media. And he said, interesting, write up a budget and a proposal and let me think on it. And I did. And he said, go. And we've been doing it ever since, from the Atlantic 10 to the Big East. And it really has helped the university expand in those markets. And the dog does it in a way that probably nobody else could. And so, yeah. And then eventually gave the leash to Evan Kraus, and he's kept it going and probably taken it to new heights that I never could. And so really a labor of love, and it was so fun, and I miss it, but I'm also grateful that Evan's doing it, because when I watch all the things that he's doing, I feel tired. And so I'm like, I'm glad it's you and not me anymore. But it was so fun, and that's sort of the story of how it came to be and all the things we did.
Because that's not just a full-time job, that's a full-time lifestyle. Because that's that dog is your family, the dog is your coworker, the dog is everything. And you talked about, the storytelling component, the platform, of course, that you have because of Blue and with the Mascot program and giving the dog a voice, giving, Butler a voice via the Mascot. And, for a long time, you were known as the man at the end of the leash. But it also gave you a platform, and people began to know you and follow you on social media. How much did you see, in particular, the power of social media put on display when you went through your liver transplant journey? Kidney transplant, excuse me. Kidney transplant, because I remember first seeing it on social media and following along so closely your journey, and also being so floored that it was happening to someone who is, such a dedicated, you're a family man and you're all over the place and you're healthy and so vibrant. And to me, it made me so much more aware of the prevalence of who this is happening to and how widely spread, of course, this is outside of maybe just the traditional, generalities or populations that you might think of that are in need for an organ transplant.
Yeah. Boy. Where do we begin? So I was really self-conscious about using the dog's platform to let people know that I needed a kidney. And, but thankfully the dog kind of gave me a platform. And so I used that. But when I was going through that, so my kidney disease per se was a result of some damaged kidneys from some medications. So I was on medications for Crohn's disease. And so I didn't have a history of kidney failure or disease. This was brought on by this unfortunate circumstance where some other medication I was on damaged my kidneys. And so that can happen. So if you're on medications long-term, get your blood work and test that. But so nevertheless, I found myself in this predicament, and I had known this for probably about a decade or so and had gotten by, but then eventually my kidney function started to decline to the point where I would need a transplant. And I told my doctor, I said, well, I've got 2 older brothers, they're healthy, I'll just ask them. And she goes, yep, that's great, but you need to cast a much wider net. And I said, well, they'll probably be a match. And she said, they probably will be, but the standards are so stringent that if they were to fail out, which is also pretty likely, then we have to start over. And if you have more people in your pipeline, then we don't have to start over completely. We can just get them working. And I said, okay, I think I understand. And then I was about to leave, and she said, and you, of all people, should cast a wide net. And this is where she really put it on me. And she was like, you have a voice and you have a huge network. And so she said, there will be people that come forward for you who may be able to stay and help somebody else. Plus, as you mentioned, Lara, there's an awareness component. And I was like, okay. So I thought long and hard about it, and I thought it's not fair to use the dog's social media, so I'll use my own. I remember laying in a bed one Saturday morning and just typing up a message about me needing a kidney, and I put it out. And this was on a Saturday, and by Monday afternoon, IU had stopped taking submissions for me. Like they were like, this guy's good. He's got plenty. And it has nothing to do with me. Like I I said this in the Netflix episode. I'll say it here. Like, I think people came forward because they felt like they were helping the dog by way of me. So, and that's fine. I'm not too proud to accept that. So, the moral of the story is like the Butler family really rose to the occasion because that's who was helping me out. At the end of the day, I was right. One of my brothers gave me a kidney, but there were so many people, mostly from Butler, but throughout central Indiana and my hometown of Wabash, who came forward just ready, no questions asked, to help me and give me a kidney. And some of those people did stay in and helped other people, which is remarkable. So I am truly blessed and grateful for the Butler family for wanting to do that for me. It's something I'll never forget. When I think about Butler, I think about that a lot. And so, now that I'm not there every day and I'm out in the great big world, like I still try to carry that with me. Like there are people there who care about me and what I did with the university. And so I certainly want to make them proud and do a good job, even though I might not be carrying around their kidney. Like they were willing to let me carry around their kidney. So I need to do this. And so yeah, it was pretty special. And, for a lot of people, that's not the case when they need an organ transplant. And for me, it was. And it was really neat experience in that so many people came forward and so many people expressed their concern and care and love on social media that I liken it to being eulogized while you're still alive. And like like everybody should be able to get that, to know how much you're loved and appreciated while you're still here. A lot of people say that about you when you're 6 feet in the ground. And I got to experience that while I was still here. And wow, that is powerful. And so it's unfortunate that I had to get a kidney transplant, but boy, it was truly an amazing experience. And I can look back on it and just be overwhelmed with gratitude and emotion by how it all turned out. It was pretty special.
Michael,
that's amazing.
One of the things that we, from the very beginning, talked about with Project 44 was that we were trying to inspire a culture of yes. And what would saying yes to just one person mean as a ripple effect, across that? And I couldn't help but, in observing your story come out and understand, here we are kind of barking from every platform we could get, say yes, it's easy, here are the things. And then, and especially, to join the registry, right? I mean, it's literally no skin off your back to do that. But to watch your story come out and realize, now I feel like I'm putting myself on blast, kind of the fact that I did have to stop and think like, oh, do I want to have surgery? Whew, I don't really want to have surgery, but would I have surgery? Sure, we can do that. But just even like experiencing it on the Project 44 side, I think it's almost like, can't see the forest for the trees. You're so close to it. It seems like such a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But just seeing it, just that slightly removed perspective was like, oh, people do. This is a very real human response to like, how can I step up? Like I have my life that I have to live and, keep going and kids and work and all the things. And also there's somebody who really needs help. So what am I willing to do to go outside of that and make sure that person is okay? Like, what was that like for you on that side?
Right.
To be living it firsthand?
Well, I felt like it was a lot to ask. And so I was, again, self-conscious about that too. The beautiful thing about modern, technology and modern medicine is, you can give somebody your kidney, and as long as you're, a healthy person, you're going to be relatively fine. You might have a short period of discomfort, but your body's going to recalibrate, and it's like it never happened. And so, I had to be reminded of that too, that this wasn't too much to ask, and so I had to get over that pretty quickly. But Chrissy, I think back to this culture of yes and how Project 44 really put that in our faces and challenged us to adopt that culture. I mean, I think that started with you and me. Like, you came to me and you said, so I want to do something about Andrew Smith's passing. And I've been talking with the Be the Match folks, and what I want to do is get people to sign up for the registry, and we're going to save 44 lives. And I thought, okay, yeah, great. And I was like, well, how many people need to sign up to be able to get to 44 lives? And you gave me some crazy number, and I was like,
18,930.
That was my there it is. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, there's no way. I'm like, there's like that's half our alumni base. Like, this isn't going to work. And so I had to challenge myself right there just to say yes to the concept. And so I was like, okay, well, this is me thinking too small. Like, who says we can't get 18,900 people to sign up for the registry? So I think I sat on it, and then I was like, yeah, okay, yes, we'll do this. And then eventually it was like, yes, I'll put my name on the registry. And then we got other people to say yes. And so it's interesting, when I was going through what I was dealing with, I thought about what we did with Project 44, and I was like, well, there's a precedent for this. And so I think by that point, we'd already trained people at Butler to say yes when people were, on their deathbed. So I certainly feel like I have something to benefit from Project 44 in my life, even though it's not quite the same cause. We had trained the Butler faithful to be really compassionate and empathize with those in need, and be willing to step up and say yes. So I probably owe you a lot for this.
Well, I definitely don't know about that, but to jog your memory again, you may not have been as eager to leverage Blue's brand, or was that, were we Trip at the time? That was Trip, right?
I think we were on Trip. Yeah, Blue the Third.
Yeah. You may not have been as eager to leverage his brand, but I was. And if you remember, we positioned him as one of two national ambassadors with Be the Match. He and Robin Roberts were the two.
Yeah,
and that was the play. It was like,
that was easy
bone
for me.
marrow, like this dude, this dog,
Yes.
can, like you said, he can bust through doors that none of us can get through on our own, and
For sure.
I think really we're able to extend that platform, build that platform because of Trip. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that was an easy one for me. I was like, yeah, Andrew loved this dog. We loved Andrew. Like, this, the least we could do is lend Blue celebrity for this cause. And so, as you and I worked through that, I mean, strategically, that was one of our angles, because, Blue the Third did have quite a large following that, spanned across the country. And so we felt like that was an ace in our pocket that we could use to get the word out quickly and widely, and to your point, in a way that was maybe people were more receptive to. And so, we used the heck out of that dog, and he was happy to do it. That dog loved to work. And so the more appearances and things we could do with him, the better. But that made all the sense in the world, and I hope it helped. But I can remember, being at Hinkle and manning tables and doing all the things just to get people to sign up. We even swabbed the dog. I don't think he had the DNA to help anybody, but still, I think people got the point of how easy it was to join the registry.
I love that. And I love that so much. I feel like that basically the common theme is that dogs just bring out the best in people.
They do.
Right?
They do.
Like, all around. And your role at Butler, like you mentioned, like having the idea to take the dog on the road when you did and do all of these things. Like, you had such close proximity. You had a front row seat to that remarkable run that you mentioned with Brad Stevens. Andrew was a part of those teams as well. How much of a testament is it to Andrew and his legacy, that his legacy is what it is via Project 44, and that it continues to not just raise awareness, but change and save lives year in and year out.
Yeah, I think this all comes back to the Butler Way. And so, that's really about putting, you join a team and then you put that team before yourself. And, you focus on things like service and loyalty and all these different aspects that go into being a great teammate. And that was Andrew. And, you look back on those Final Four teams and you can pinpoint where he inserted himself to make sure that we got to that point. Like, he was the consummate teammate, to the point where when he had cancer, then, he realized, I'm probably going to be able to get some help, but there are, groups who are marginalized who, probably don't have the support through this fashion or this means of medical technology to get the support that they need. But because I'm I'm Anglo male, like, it's just this system benefits me. And that, he could have just been like, great, I'll be good, and moved on. And he just didn't. Like, he was like, no, I'm a part of this team now. And so I have a platform. I see that there's a discrepancy here, and I'd like to correct that. And so he used his platform. And again, that really speaks to the values of the Butler Way. He was a part of a new team, and he saw something that needed done, and he was willing to, put himself to task. And I think we all saw that and thought, well, he's no longer with us. We've got to carry his work forward. I think that's probably what compelled Chrissy to do what she did. And then that's probably what got me to say yes. It's like, this just can't die with him. He took it upon himself to take this mission on. We've got to carry it forward. And again, yes, to your point, Lara, that speaks to his legacy, but I think it speaks to his mindset as a teammate, which is rooted in the Butler Way. And I hope that, my hope for the Butler Way is that it's adopted by more than just those who put on a Butler uniform. Like, it applies to all of us. And so if we feel like we're a part of this team or this family that identify as Butler Bulldogs, then, it's not enough to just, put on the sweatshirt and cheer on the team. It's like, this is a way of life. Like, this is a philosophy that we believe in, so that no matter if we're talking about the Butler family or our church family or our family at home or our colleagues at work, it's sort of like, well, I'm here, and my role is to serve each of these families or these people in my life. And so that's what Andrew did. And again, I just don't think any of us were willing to let his efforts die with him. And so we took it on, and here we are, however many years later, keeping it going.
As overwhelming as it is to see the amount of support, the amount of people who, continue to follow Andrew's legacy, to follow Project 44, those who came out in support of you when you went through your own journey, those who were just immediately so eager to follow a Bulldog all over on social media as it goes across the country. Like, you think about just things that you could not have foreseen, and, the engagement or the interest that there are, or what people are so invested in following. I just came back from a trip to Berlin where we played, the Colts played in Olympic Stadium, and I'm thinking about, as someone who grew up running track and field and seeing it's the 1936 Olympics and seeing Jesse Owens's name and walking in front of the Olympic rings, like, those are those kind of opportunities where you're like, what over the course of my career or my life kind of led me to this point? Like, never could I have foreseen standing right here. Yeah. What has been one of those moments, whether it was during your Butler career or your career now at IMS, where you look at it and you had that moment where you're like, I have been in some incredible atmospheres, experiences. What is one of those where you truly felt like, I could not have imagined that this journey would have placed me here?
There's so many, but the Final Fours are an obvious one. To be able to stand on the court with your school, and your school's like Mascot, you're like, man, so grateful. I wish we could have won one of those, but it seems to me that the story's no less impactful when people find out that I went to Butler, I worked there. Like, that topic still comes up, and I was like, yeah, I was there. I was there. I was a part of it. And so that was really great. And then, here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, when I got here, one of my goals was to, try to sell the place out again, which we hadn't done since the 100th running in 2016. And it felt like we were in a good spot when I got here. We had sort of since 2016 built up the crowd, and I felt like there were some levers we could pull to really unleash the fervor and get people coming back. And so, we put our heads on it and really try to connect with people and try to, it's really hard to explain what the Indianapolis 500 is like. If you've been, that's way more than just a car race. That it truly is a spectacle. But to be able to explain that to somebody who doesn't know, that's a difficult proposition. So I challenged the team when I got here. I'm like, we have to draw on, what's the emotion of that, and what are the senses that are involved, and how is this truly different than anything else on the planet? And so that's where we leaned in, and with a lot of partnerships, whether it be our broadcast partner or IndyCar or who you name it, we started to get this groundswell of energy and activity. And this past May, we sold out the grandstands for the first time since 2016. And on race day, when you stand on the grid, and you look out and the place is full and you think, I had something to do with that. That's really moving and very gratifying. And so that just another one of those moments where it's just like, I get to be a part of this and I had something to do with it. And so it's things like that. And then, that's sort of the long shot. As you get in deeper, there are these moments that happen, these sort of close-up shots, whether that's, having your dog sit next to Charles Barkley on a national broadcast and you're just like, well, how did I get here? Or, a rain delay before the Indy 500 and the next thing you're standing next to Ken Griffey Jr. having a conversation and you're like, childhood me would never believe this. And so there's moments like that happen all the time now in my life. And I think, what did I do to deserve any of this? But it's really neat and it makes for a great story. And I certainly have a lot of fun with it, but try not to take it for granted. And I as I think about those moments, it's pretty easy to trace back to Butler. Certainly the Final Fours, right? That's an obvious one. But even here, I'm not getting to do what I do here or be in this position if it weren't for Butler and the connections I've made and the relationships and all the things I've learned. I just attribute it to my Butler experience, and I'm grateful for it. And I want others to be able to benefit from that too. And so I'm constantly trying to recruit for Butler and hire Butler interns and do all those things because I'm biased, and I don't mind telling people that. Everybody knows that anyway. But it's crazy, Lara. And you've had those moments too, where you just find yourself in a spot and you think, how the heck did little old me get here? And it's crazy. And I feel like there'll be more in my future too. And I look forward to those days. But if not, I could die a happy man. I've seen things that most people have never seen. And again, I thank Butler for that.
And everyone thinks about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway when you think about the Indy 500. It's, that is the culmination. That is that big weekend where all eyes are on you. But you're operating 12 months a year, that you are telling stories, you're marketing Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's much different from, say, college athletics when you have 3 seasons a year and you've got sports that are year round and you have, a full academic calendar, fall, winter, spring, all of those. Now this is unique with IMS and how you're making people think about it, not just for Indianapolis 500 weekend and all of that magnitude is, but everything surrounding it as well. What are those big plans? What are those things that you're kind of working on and you have in the vision of everything that you're building up to, leading up to this next Indianapolis 500 and what's still to come and ahead for the Speedway?
Well, before I get to any big things, you hit on something there, and I challenge my team with this all the time, and that's getting people to think about the Indy 500 or Indianapolis Motor Speedway at a time of year when they have no business thinking about us. Like, that's sort of the secret sauce. I learned that with the dog. Like, I used to use the dog to get people to think about Butler when they shouldn't otherwise think about Butler. And so when I came here, I thought, yeah, it's pretty easy to think about us in April and May. But I want you thinking about us year long. And that's a much tougher proposition, because after all, we're just a racetrack that's, asphalt and steel and concrete and all these things that, pretty cold. And so, we've really challenged ourselves to figure that piece out. So whether it's leveraging, Doug Bulls or IndyCar drivers or, being a part of this greater mission in Indianapolis to host world-class events, we feel like we have a role to play in that. And so, we roll out our welcome mat and have, everybody from Olympic swimmers to NFL football players to you name it out to the track to, get a picture on the Art of Bricks or take a hot lap or do whatever. And so we've sort of found ways to maintain that relevance outside of maybe once a year or just during racing season. And so that's a fun challenge, and we have a lot of fun with it. Just this week, as we're recording this episode, we went down to Gainbridge Fieldhouse and unveiled the Borg Warner Trophy with Alex Palou, and he made an appearance at the Pacers game. So it's things like that, and we'll continue to do that. I mean, we love unveils. We'll unveil an Indy 500 ticket with Alex Palou on it. We'll unveil a pace car. We'll do all this before the month of May. And so, it's really fun to think about those things and then challenge ourselves to do them and get people to respond in a positive way and not be like, oh, the Speedway, I'm tired of hearing from them. In fact, what we found is when we can insert ourselves in sort of these broader Indianapolis conversations, people take a lot of pride in that, because after all, when you leave Indianapolis and you tell people you're from Indy, I'm guessing one of the first things that comes up is the Indy 500 or the racetrack. And so this is a point of pride for people who live here. And so we want to keep the place immaculate so that, they can take pride in it. And we want to host great events so people can take pride of it. But we also love nothing more than bringing new faces and fans out here and showing them what we're all about here. And so when we bring everybody from, again, Olympic swimmers to the Savannah Bananas, and they go to the racetrack, our fans, the community, they tend to respond positively, like they've had the true Indy experience now. And so again, we feel like we have a role to play in all that in advancing Indianapolis, and again with that reputation of Hoosier hospitality and hosting world-class events. And so we bought in whole hog, and we're all in on that. And as far as big things, well, you'll have to stay tuned. I do predict another Indy 500 sellout as of today. We're 82% sold on grandstand seats, which is incredible. So if you haven't got your Indy 500 tickets, you should do that. But I think we'll not only sell out the grandstands this year, but sell out the infield as well. That's my prediction. And if so, that would be the first true sellout of both reserve seats and general admission since 2016, which would be remarkable. So I think that's going to be a big deal. And then the question is, who are the celebrities that are going to join us this year in May? And who are we going to bring in anybody outside of IndyCar, like we had Kyle Larson these past couple of years from NASCAR driving? And so what are the storylines going to be? I won't tip my cap to any of those because it's not my place to say, but I think there's some fun stuff in the works. And for us, it's all about celebrating America as well. As you know, the Indy 500 has become an American tradition held on Memorial Day every year. That's a given. But next year, we're celebrating our semi-quincentennial. So 250 years of this republic known as the United States. And we're going to lean in hard. Everything's going to be patriotic. In fact, our theme is United We Race. And so we're all in on the red, white, and blue next year. And so I think that's going to also be a fun storyline, and then bring to bear a lot of exciting announcements and guests and opportunities. So we have a few tricks up our sleeve, and I think you're just going to have to be here to see it all come to fruition.
You have to save something for Doug Bowles to talk about.
That's right. I can't steal his thunder.
You can't make all the big news.
That's exactly right.
Put on a blue suit and make some news. Michael,
Yep.
Just to kind of answer the rhetorical question, so we actually are getting ready to celebrate 10 years of impact with Project 44. Andrew passed away also in 2016. And so in honor of his legacy and the impact that we've been able to make since then, we are launching a 10-year campaign, Drive to Safe. And for us, you know, you kind of touched on it a moment ago with the tight-knit community that is Indianapolis, and particularly Indianapolis sports. And, you know, you're taking drivers down to Gainbridge, and, you know, Lara's got people, you know, Lucas Oil up to Grand Park, and, you know, everyone in between. What do you think makes Indianapolis a place where, you know, being a great host city is one thing, but being a place where impact happens is another? What do you think it is about Indianapolis that makes us so connected and kind of so symbiotic together as especially sports entities together?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of our DNA now. You can trace it back to the formation of the Indy Sports Corps, which was the first of its kind, and then the attraction of the Colts from Baltimore and building a stadium even before they got here, and hosting the Pan Am Games, and then sort of the rest is history. And I think we've done this through sports, much like Butler reached its current level. Was a double down investment in basketball in a time where we weren't that great in basketball, but we had a vision for it. And luckily Barry Collier got us winning some games, and then handed it off to capable individuals who kept us winning. And it was a proposition that worked. And the same thing has happened in Indianapolis. We saw a strategy through sports to help us level up as a city. And so, sports, we tend to dismiss them as, mere athletic activity. And in reality, it requires probably the most of humankind, right? Teamwork and sacrifice and discipline and all these things. And that's both on the playing field or court or surface and off. And people can identify with sport and the human element. And so, what it forced Indianapolis to do as a city and as a community was to sacrifice and remain steadfast and disciplined, and to pitch in and help. And sure enough, that became our identity and our way of life. And it's still that way today. It's truly remarkable. I mean, you listen to those entities who come to town to host events, whether that's the NCAA or the Olympic Committee or WWE or whomever the entity is, they will tell you that Indianapolis is different than any place they go. And it's because, we're the most buttoned up, and we're the most welcoming and hospitable. And we have the most volunteers. And this didn't happen overnight. This didn't happen by mistake. I mentioned all the things that happened decades ago that set this into motion. And then since then, we've had people step up to lead the charge and make sure that we continue on that trajectory. And so I love being a part of this city. I love working here. I love specifically working in the sports industry in this city because of this philosophy. And I love that Indianapolis Motor Speedway has a role to play in all that, because that's also extremely gratifying when we can come alongside Sports Corps and visit Indy and downtown Indianapolis and help us secure new events, whether that's just another Final Four or, a string of WWE events over the next decade, or you name it. When we can get involved and help bring those contracts to bear, we love that. And then that's just the first part. The other part is executing. And we love lending our expertise and our facilities and all those things to make these things happen better than they happen anywhere else in the world. So I think that's an identity and philosophy. And then that has just spilled over into our medical community, our higher ed community. It's just sort of who we are now. So when you think about Indianapolis and you come to Indianapolis, you're going to think about a place that really has brought the term Hoosier hospitality to life, and we live that. And so that means, putting others before yourself and being committed to service and just being downright friendly. And, I'm not convinced you could host an Indy 500 anywhere else in the world and have it go so well. You think about it, it should not work. There's only 250 people that work at Indianapolis Motor Speedway and at IndyCar full time. And on race day, the amount of people working in some sort of working capacity, whether that's scanning tickets, taking your order at the concession stand, parking cars, taking television pictures, that totals 12,500 people. A lot of them are just working that day. Yet this thing comes off without a hitch, at least for all you know. And you come and you have a good time. And you're like, that was amazing. I'm coming back next year. It should not work, but it does. And I think it's a testament to Indianapolis and just sort of our way of life and our philosophy here. And so we certainly benefit from it. And I hope that we're perpetuating it as well.
Well, I know that Sam and I had the time of our lives when we were able to wave the checkered flag some years ago up there. Terrifying on the platform. Absolutely. And I'm not even afraid of heights, but that was
30 feet in the air over the racetrack. Yeah.
I mean, like no safety equipment whatsoever. Sorry, insurance, but like that was nuts. But it was awesome. So we hope to, continue the partnership with IMS and, be able to continue, making impact there too. Michael, one of the things that we do at the end of every episode is ask our guest, as Andrew's nickname was Moose. And so the Moose is our spirit animal. Mm-hmm. He's, more than a mascot to us. He truly is a spirit animal. And we ask each of our guests, what would your spirit animal be if you had one?
Oh, definitely the Bulldog. Yeah, I mean, you don't even need to ask. The English Bulldog. I've taken on that as my spirit animal for sure. After you spend 16 years on the other end of a leash with one, you understand what they're all about. It was really interesting at first to understand a Bulldog because I had never owned one. When I went to Butler, I vowed that I would own one. I didn't know I would own the one, but it turns out like they're a different breed, right? And they're not golden retrievers or black labs. And that's sort of what got me into blogging for the dog. I remember a couple came up, a co-ed couple that were students, saw Blue. This was Blue the second. They were like, oh, it's Blue. And I was like, yeah, come up. And they pet him and they were like, oh, he doesn't like us. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, he just let you pet him. But, you think about it, he's always got that resting bulldog face. There's no waggy tail. It's a corkscrew. And I was like, this dog is completely misunderstood. And so that's when I realized I needed to channel the dog's personality because I was with the dog all the time. I knew when he was happy and when he was sad or tired or whatever. And so that was why I started blogging for the dog. I was like, I better help this dog with his voice because if we just have to rely on his face and his mannerisms, they're just going to feel like he's mean or he doesn't like us or whatever. And so yeah, I really got to understand the Bulldog after that. And they're a wonderful breed. They're so loyal and they're so loving. They've also been nicknamed the clown dog. So they can be a little bit of clowns. And as you all know, Trip was a bit of a prankster, and so they can have a wild side to them. But they're loyal to a fault, and they're so loving, and they just bring so much joy to your life. And so I love that about them. I'll always remember Blue the second, Blue third for that and what they brought to our family's lives. And so yeah, I try to channel their determination, their loyalty, their loving way, and try to be a Bulldog as well. So always a Bulldog through and through.
Love that. Resting Bulldog face. I'm going to use that.
RBF. Yeah. There you go.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for your time today in the midst of all of the things you have going on and your 82%, ticket sales and holidays and all the things. You have from day one meant so much to Project 44. We're so grateful for you then and now and are excited to celebrate the total sellout this year at IMS.
Yes, indeed. Yes, we will. And we'll celebrate 10 years of Project 44 as well. So thanks for all that you do, keeping that going. Credit to you, Chrissy, for coming up with the idea and making it happen. And here we are 10 years later, and it's truly remarkable what we've done, and really all a testament to Andrew and what he set out to do. And so to preserve his memory and his legacy in this way is phenomenal, and I hope you feel really good about that. You should be proud. So thanks for everything. And thanks for making me say yes and helping along in what little way I could.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Finding 44. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe, rate, and review. Follow Project 44's mission at project44.org and find us on social media at Join Project 44.